Let's find out more from our reporter, Aaron Bates, who's been following the story for us since it started, actually, Aaron. There's been so much to talk about coming out of Angelo Agrizzi's testimony. Let's talk about the more allegations he's leveled about the tender process that was flawed in favor of Bosasa.
Yes, Shahan, you're right to touch on that. Today was chiefly about correctional services and using an SIU report which was buried but finalized in 2009 to corroborate or test a lot of Agrizzi's testimony. And he did detail issues with the fraud process. He fingered Patrick Gillingham, metaphorically, quite severely in all of this, saying that Gillingham really spearheaded the agreements between Bosasa, its subsidiaries, and correctional services. So to just touch on that a little bit, let's have a moment of his testimony this afternoon.
What this does, and this was the whole plan from the beginning, was to capture the correctional services by having the network, as I explained, having the system, the platform. So it's like having an Apple iPhone. Once you've got an Apple iPhone, you've got the iCloud, you have to use it. And you end up with an iPad, then you end up with a Mac Air, and that was the whole concept behind the state capture, of correctional services, was to put a system in there, make every other tender reliant on that system. Then you controlled it.
So in a way, you can always say there was a tender, and different companies, put in their bids, and Bosasa won. But actually, the whole thing would have been manipulated in such a way that the winner could only be Bosasa, or whoever Bosasa wanted to win.
Correct.
So, Aaron, given all of that, Bosasa allegedly had a way to cover its tracks. Tell us about that.
Yes, so we heard about this rigged process even before tenders were kind of publicly disclosed by correctional services. And then that when the SIU cottoned on to all of the malfeasance over specifically these correctional services contracts, it approached Bosasa, and Bosasa agreed to cooperate with the investigation and said it would hand over a sort of slew of data. But then it delayed the agreed date to hand over that information in the form of servers and computers by a week. And then it went on this big data deleting blitz. Let's have a look.
So in effect, Bosasa was saying was taking the attitude that the SIU may come and look at the computers, and they will cooperate, but they just needed time before the SIU came to make sure that the whole exercise, as far as they were concerned, would not work for the SIU. At least that's what they thought.
Chair, that is correct, and I must add, just for completion, that we were told by senior counsel not to do it. We were actually instructed.
Yes.
The meeting then ensued in the car park where we were told, forget what senior counsel is saying, I'll pay your salaries, you just get it done, I will send people that will help. I'll give you more information in my affidavit about that.
So 40,000 documents destroyed, Aaron. That in itself tells you that they have something else to answer to.
Yes, this is potentially obstructing the ends of justice, defeating the ends of justice. When they knew that SIU was onto their trail and onto their scheme, they destroyed pertinent information on their servers in order to try and hide what they were up to. And so it was those 40,000 documents and folders. And the way that they found that out, the SIU this is because they got a forensic IT expert to go and look at all the information. He found over these 4 days in early December 2008, all of these files were changed, their names were changed, and then they were deleted. And this comes after hearing yesterday from Agrizzi that in some cases Bosasa officials were actually destroying physical documents in the form of paperwork by burying them using, sort of bulldozer type equipment to do so. And in one case, Gavin Watson's accused of actually shredding paper putting it in a little Ziploc bag and adding water to create kind of pulp, paper mache, out of documents that seem to be problematic for Bosasa.
So let's talk about how Angelo Agrizzi has again and again incriminated himself in this testimony. Today, at the end of it, he even said that Gavin Watson charged him with taking over the responsibility of paying the bribes.
Yes, and that's something a lot of people have picked up on, asking what's going to happen to Agrizzi if he's so candid about all of the illegal things he did, packing money, delivering bribes to government officials like Linda MT, like Patrick Gillingham from Correctional Services, amongst others. So in terms of the Commission of Inquiry, which is an inquisitorial process, there are rules that stipulate the difference between direct self-incriminating evidence and indirect. So direct self-incriminating evidence is if I say, I bribed so-and-so. I'm stating in no uncertain terms I committed that crime. That's not permissible. So you're immune on that front. But if you give sort of a chain of evidence that investigators can go and follow up on, they could still use that to build a case, a prima facie case, to prosecute you. However, in the case of Agrizzi, it's likely, if we get to criminal prosecution, which is distinct from the inquisitorial inquiry, he will gain some kind of immunity. So if he turns state witness, for example, which some media houses are reporting he's in the process of negotiating, he will be immune from prosecution and will be less liable on certain conditions which are stipulated in the Criminal Procedures Act.
Thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. Aaron Bates, our reporter, is, of course, tracking the state capture inquiry very closely for us right here at ENCA.